Warning, this podcast is uncensored and contains profane adult language. Warning, this podcast contains spoilers. Warning, this podcast contains spoilers.
Let's go watch it in 2D. No, let's go watch it in 3D. But if we watch it in 3D, then is it worth the cost?
Daily Bats, I choose you. Say my name so my powers will become yours. Shazam!
I'd like to purchase some of your finest beer, please.
A lair.
Yes. If you have a location like on a cliff, like a castle-esque type thing.
Overlooking some water.
Splashing on rocks and stuff, then we will take that.
Hello. This is Adolf Vega, and today I have with me Mr.
Jake Jarvis.
And today we're reviewing Shazam, but with spoilers.
So, if you haven't seen it yet, go see it. And we'll be here when you come back.
Yeah, just put pause and, come back after you watched it. If you don't really care about the whole movie being spoiled from beginning to end, with the post-credits and mid-credits scene talked about, then you may need to come back. Or if you don't care about being spoiled from beginning to end, including the mid-credits and post-credits scene, then go ahead and continue on. But we're going to go ahead and add a spoiler tag right now and before this, so that way you know well ahead of time we're spoilers.
Warning, this podcast contains spoilers. Warning, this podcast contains spoilers.
Alright, so the movie begins the 1970s. I don't remember the exact dates. Was it 77, 78?
74.
Okay, 74. I was totally wrong there. And young Shiva, I can't pronounce that damn name. Young Shiva.
Sylvana, I think. That's the thing with comic books. You never hear the name said out loud until these movies come out. So if you've read a character for decades, you get an idea of how his name or her name is said, and it normally doesn't match what the studio decides to do.
So, we get him in a car with his father and his older brother, and he's just bored, and it's around Christmas time, and he don't think the only thing he has to play with is an 8-ball. Which I feel for him. Come on, they didn't have video games back then in the 70s. Well, they did, but not to the extent we have now that are portable.
They were these little handheld devices that had it wasn't even 8-bit yet.
It was like 4-bit.
Oh yeah, it was like CGA graphics.
Like the Game & Watch and such.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
So he's playing with the 8-ball, which is like, oh, I feel so bad for him, poor thing. He doesn't. You can only play with the 8-ball for like 30 seconds, and then you get bored.
Yeah, and then when he gets home, probably all he's got to play with is the Odyssey.
Yeah. Anyway, so he's playing with the 8-ball, and he sees a vision. His car turns into something, and it fogs up, and then he gets out, and he sees a wizard, and the wizard is, I guess, casting a big net, which is pretty interesting. Interesting revelation here that there are multiple people that the wizard has asked to be Shazam. And so he realizes that Savannah is not a good person for this powers, and casts him out of and then he's back in the car, and he's confused and trying to make a big lot of noise to his dad, and his dad almost gets in a car accident, but then does get into a car accident, and you get to see the dad on the floor of the ice, and I thought he was gonna die.
Mhm.
And it flashes forward to present day, which I was like, okay, what happened there? But we're gonna eventually find out. And a young Billy Batson is talking to some cops and encourage him to go into is it like a building or like a restaurant or something?
Look like a pawn shop.
Yeah, a pawn shop. And he locks them in there and uses the police computer to get information on where his mom is.
Mhm. Yeah, Billy's trying to find his mom by looking stuff up. So he uses the computer in the police car. And then he locks him in, and then he also tries to send the other cops away from the scene, but the dispatch realizes he's talking to a kid, not a cop.
Yeah, and I was kind of surprised by this opening scene with Billy. He's not really being terrible bad. Once you figure out why he's doing it, it's like, oh, okay. But at the same time, it doesn't sound like the pure of heart that someone, that the wizard was looking for. Billy's always like super duper sweet and nice. And like in this beginning scene, he's like, luring cops into in to a trap.
Yeah, well, the source material this is based on, Billy's a real dick in this version of Shazam. I mean, so the biggest criticism a lot of comic fans had about it is they said Billy Batson was never this much of an asshole. But yeah, in this run he sure was. The movie, he's considerably nicer and more rounded and has more depth.
So, I guess he doesn't have a phone because he's a foster kid, and doesn't have access to library computers or anything. So he's just desperate to find his mom, and he's tired of being with fosters.
Well, yeah. Well, even if he has access to a phone, it's probably what they call a Obama phone. So he probably has like 100 minutes a month on it. Not much to do searching. And I don't know how Philly is with Wi-Fi, but if you've got a phone like that, you got to hunt up Wi-Fi to have more than 100 minutes on it.
Yeah, so I don't think I ever see him use a cell phone in this movie at all. So I'm assuming he doesn't have one.
Yeah, I would assume he doesn't either, because not every cell phones aren't so ubiquitous that everybody has one.
So, young Billy is played by Asher Angel, and I really like him. I do like him a lot.
Yep.
And he eventually you see him talking to the foster or not I guess the government, local government, who's taking care of the foster parents for him and trying to find people for him. And he said, the foster, what is it called? Child Services, I think it is, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like, we found a family for you. They're gonna, give him a shot. And he goes there and he meets up with his, with them, and he's not really. He's kind of being bratty. I mean, he wants to try to find his biological mom, and that's the main thread in the movie. And it's understandable. He's hasn't been with his mom for years, and
Mm-hmm. And that's a detail that bugged me too, because in the foster system, they look for any way to get a kid out of it. They should be looking for his mom like crazy, because they don't want to have to spend their limited resources on a kid who's got a mother who is not been ruled unfit by the court.
Or father.
So yeah, thank you. I need to remember that fathers are legit too. And so it just that seemed a little weird to me. That's a detail. They spend all this time building this up, but they never mention anything about the mother being ruled unfit for anything.
Oh, we also got to mention too, uncle or aunt, because Spidey is taken care of by his uncle, Ben and Aunt May. So, any other, family member that could take care of, the child protective services would try to get them connected to them first, and then get someone there. You don't want like it's kind of the whole plot of a series of unfortunate events.
Yeah, exactly.
So, anyway, he meets this new family, and they seem really nice. They are awesome. Like the mom and dad are really warm, and the dad, played by Victor Vasquez, or is called Cooper, I think, and the mom Martha. They are he plays Victor Vasquez, and that's Rosa Vasquez. Those are the character names. And Cooper and Martha, they're so warm and so nice and so loving. They're just amazing. Like, you want to just give them a hug. You're like, you guys are great.
Yeah, they destroy decades of negative portrayals of fostering in movies and TV.
And they have infinite patience, and so you get to meet one of the new kids on the block, or the new foster kids that is going to be living with young, and that's his brother. And his brother, I really like him too.
Freddie Freeman.
Yeah. I'm trying to get the actor's name here. He really is a standout. Jack Grazer is his name.
Yeah, Jack Dylan Grazer. Yeah.
He is basically like a super comic book nerd on screen, and he knows everything about Batman, Superman. His prized possession is a bullet that has come off of Superman. That's, and he loves that. And I thought that was adorable.
Yeah, he's fanboying hard, and it just shows you how fanboying superheroes would be like if they really existed. They would be treated like sports figures.
Oh, and Freddy's wearing a Superman shirt in this whole movie. I actually have that Superman shirt. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, he wears a couple of different superhero shirts in the movie. So he's like fanboy all the time. So in some ways, I can really relate.
And he, is handicapped. Or is that the right term now, or is it?
Yeah. We're not going to use the C word, which he used a few times. Which the audience I saw it with gasped when he said crippled.
Except for that one time there we used it.
Yeah.
But
I just said it so you would know which C word. Like going, why would he? Because there's another C word, and I wanted to make sure we knew we were all on the same page here.
I'm gonna have to put the language thing on this one. Anyway, so he is not 100% able-bodied there.
Yeah,
and he goes to school with Billy, and Billy goes to school, and they go to lunch, and the school is like basically a way to cement that they're kids. But I never really had a good sense that he was in school. Like, he didn't have homework, he didn't have tests. They don't have those kind of scenes in this movie, which I think it would have worked a little bit better if it did.
The school existed as a conduit for gags. I mean, the school is named Fawcett Central, which is a callback to the original publisher of Shazam, the superhero formerly known as Captain Marvel. They were published from the 30s through 53 by Fawcett Comics.
And so they're talking about lunch and what superpowers they would want. I totally get that. At the same time, I just met you a day ago. Can I get to know you? you know,
Yeah,
can you tell me how the school is? you know,
yeah, yeah. Tell me who the bullies are, so I know who to avoid.
which
Which I said the school exists as a conduit for humor. So you get your standard trope of bully and bully best friend terrorize them. And of course, I'm sitting there going, okay, this movie's set at Christmas. Why in the hell are they still in school? Doesn't this school have winter break?
yeah, when is it? Is it like December 1st or the 2nd or something?
Yeah.
It's near Christmas time, but we don't know how close.
Of course, the way they put Christmas decorations up, this could be October for all we know.
It could be like a week before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah, we get to they leave school, and Billy and his foster brother, Freddie, are now being bullied, and Freddie is getting beat up by the bullies for no apparent reason, just because they're jerks. They're just two pairs of assholes shitting on everyone else.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, the trope.
They have no excuse. That's what they are. That's it. That's all it is.
Yeah.
So then Billy gets, the part of the, what is that thing called? The brace, I think it is, right?
Yeah, it's a brace, yeah.
And beats the crap out of him.
Yeah, using the brace.
And, to be, it's like, hey, you don't need to do that. Freddy doesn't deserve that. And Billy runs, and then they run after him. He gets onto the train, and
he jumps into the subway, gets on the train, and sits back, and then the wizard summons him.
Yeah. So then, in a hilarious little scene, like the door opens and like he sees on the side of the wall. It's like, is this my spot? I don't know where this is at. Just a little touch like that is just so perfect. I love that. Where he doesn't. It's like, this doesn't look like downtown Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And he goes out there and he hears the wizard, which is played by the great Damon Hansul, which you may know him
from Guardians of the Galaxy. He was also in Captain Marvel, the other Captain Marvel.
Yeah, but he's in heavy, heavy makeup with a long beard, so you do not really recognize him in this.
Mm-hmm.
In Guardians of the Galaxy, he's the guy that tries to arrest Star-Lord, and he's like, "I'm Star-Lord," and he's like, "Who?
Who?
So anyway, he is like, "I've been looking for someone to, and give me your power. Give them the powers." And so Billy's like, "Okay," and say my name.
And he says, "Grab my staff," and he goes, and Billy goes, "Grows."
I love that. That's exactly what a 14-year-old boy would say.
Exactly. That got one of the biggest laughs in the movie.
I mean, I would be curious what's going on, but I wouldn't be like, okay, stranger danger.
Yeah, exactly.
So he says Shazam, and then he becomes the superhero Shazam, and the wizard dies, and he doesn't get to really be explained what's going on.
Yeah, that's every version of this story, every reboot. The wizard just leaves a mortal coil, and poor Billy Batson is left on his own to figure this shit out on his own.
And like, they like show off the different statues of what is it called? The different versions of man's hate or something, right?
Yeah, these are the 7 deadly sins.
Yeah. And then you see in here like a globe of energy globe and a little caterpillar that's reaching for it, but it's like frozen.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, okay, what's going on there? And eventually we get to there, but not yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the little terrarium that's got a caterpillar in it.
Now, any Shazam fans will know that caterpillar is actually from another planet.
Uh-huh. That's Mr. Mind.
And is from Venus.
Mm-hmm.
And it's quite a powerful little thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was introduced in the first long-form comic book story, The Monster Society Evil, which ran for about 2 years.
Yeah, it's like telekinetic powers, and it's a super duper mind.
Yeah, kind of think. Yeah, think to give you a modern reference. Think Plankton in SpongeBob cartoons.
Yeah, I think that's a really good basic way to say that. If Plankton got his shit together,
Yeah, he'd be Mr. Mind.
Yeah, because it's just a hamburger recipe. I'm sure you can figure out a way to make a better hamburger than Mr. Krabs Plankton. It's not that complicated.
Yeah. How hard could Krabby Patty be?
Fine, make something better than the Krabby Patty, Plankton. Not that hard.
Yeah, come up with the Krabby Patty Impossible Burger.
Or make the, something else burger, whatever. Anyway. We hit back and we get, you see Dr. Savannah. Dr. S, there. Dr. S. And he is talking to someone. They're doing interviews, and the interviews, they're trying to find out where, about if the wizard called them, and he's paying for like a study, and like the person doing the study is like, yeah, seems like a lot of people are going through this, and you're basically saying that the wizard has called lots of different kids over the decades to be Shazam, and none of them have been good enough except for Billy.
Well, I think Billy wasn't necessarily good enough. He was just desperate enough. Yeah, so basically the wizard Shazam has been traumatizing kids by scaring them and then rejecting them with his call.
Which is really interesting. I like that.
Yeah.
I was thinking that, the wizard only called once every century or something, and, or only 3 or 4 times, and that was it, because one of the times becomes Black Adam, which no reference here to that, which I was kind of disappointed in.
Yeah, because the original source material, this was the villain in this was Black Adam, not Dr.
Yes.
Savannah.
People online are probably gonna be like, "Damn it, can't you say his name right?"
And I'm extending my middle finger out. You're number 1.
Yeah, we're kind of loose and goosey in this spoiler cast.
Yeah.
So,
if you don't like it, you can donate money for us to take diction lessons. Our Patreon. Details will be at the end.
Yeah, details are in the info box if you want to donate money to help us learn.
For us to get diction lessons, for us to learn diction.
We need to get educated.
Yes.
How to speak English.
Yeah. So,
we learned that Dr. Savannah is trying to break the code of whatever got the wizard's code with the hieroglyphs or with the symbols, and try to gain access to it. And, he's finding the other kids have, over the decades, seen this and, piecing together their story to try to gain access back into the cave of mystery. No.
Mm-hmm. Which the Rock of Eternity, which has a cave in it.
Yeah, it's don't Google image search Cave of Mysteries. You'll probably get some nasty stuff there.
Or they might luck out and get some stuff from, what's that Disney show? Oh, never mind. It's not. I'm brain dead right now. So anyway, Dr. Savannah writes his hieroglyphics, 7 symbols 7 times on a door, and his assistant, the doctor, pretty much running the study, him trying to find these kids who've had contact with the wizard. She touches the door and then promptly disintegrates.
Which didn't make any sense.
Well, yeah, they lit up, so it does kind of make a little sense. And then Savannah very slowly grabs the doorknob and turns and opens the door. Gee, I would have at least put a glove on or something, that's just me.
Yeah, and now that the wizard is basically gone, he gets the orb, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he just waltzes in. We notice the terrarium is smashed. So Mr. Mind is loose. And he gets the orb and unleashes the 7 deadly sins.
Now, the 7 deadly sins was kind of really quickly passed over in this movie. I feel like they could have done a lot more to explain what's going on with that.
Yeah, but some of them probably, some of the explanations might have not kept a PG-13 rating. The 7 deadly sins have always been problematic in the comic book because initially they were called the 7 deadly enemies of man, and they never referred to lust as lust because the comics code.
So, but are they just demons that have those powers, or are they the true representation of those things?
Okay, they're based upon the biblical attributes because there's the 7 deadly sins, then there's the 7 heavenly virtues, which I'm assuming the wizards were supposed to represent those. And it sounds like in this version of the story that the wizards kept the 7 deadly sins in check.
Okay. Just so that way everyone knows, the 7 deadly sins are pride, greed, lust, envy, gluttony, wrath, and sloth. Basically, everything that too easy joke, but everything that Trump is the 7 deadly sins.
He's pretty much a walking embodiment of the 7 deadly sins.
Anyway, so he gets that power, and now the 7 deadly sins talk to Dr. Savannah and say, you need to get the power from Shazam, and then you'll have the ultimate power, which, okay.
Yeah.
Kind of not super explained well.
Oh, they're just using him, so they're just giving him an excuse. They just want to make sure there isn't anybody strong enough to put him back into their stone form.
So, the sins, I'm kind of confused with this. That, okay, so they're in stone form, but they still exist in humanity. You still have greed and humanity and lust and all those things. Are they just demons that have that, or those that's where it gets kind of hazy for me. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, I know exactly what you're saying. It's kind of like, why is there a Santa Claus on every street corner?
Yeah.
So I just kind of, it's mythological stuff. If you think about it, it falls apart. So if you want your story to work, you let it slide. Otherwise, it's not going to work. I mean, that's the bottom line. It's
Yeah.
they're a manifestation of evil. And the big question is, do they cause evil or do they feed off evil?
Yeah.
And that's never explained. But is there an explanation even possible? I mean, it's like the chicken and the egg.
Yeah. So Shazam is an acronym, by the way, just in case any listeners at home don't know what it means. Solomon, Hercules, Atlas, Zeus, Achilles, and Mercury.
Mm-hmm.
And Shazam, the superhero, has the powers of the wisdom of Solomon, the strength of Hercules, the stamina of Atlas, the power of Zeus, the courage of Achilles, and the speed of Mercury. So he has super speed, he has super strength, he has super agility, he could use lightning bolts,
Mm-hmm.
and he's supposed to be super smart or omnipresent or or knowledge of the gods.
It takes a while for the powers of Solomon to kick in. We'll just say that.
It's basically whenever they need it to be a plot
Yeah,
device.
exactly. And the powers of and the lightning abilities are a recent addition interpretation for the character, which is a nice addition because it really differentiates him from Superman.
Yeah. And it's kind of weird because like they're mixing like Greek and Roman gods and like Judo-Christian beliefs of
Uh-huh. If you've ever seen the original serial, the cultural misappropriation is the only way to describe it. I mean, they just throw in every religion. I mean, you got Buddhism, Shintoism, Christianity, the Kabbalah, all this stuff. They just throw it in a blender and just throw it out and just vomit it out. And it's hysterically, it adds a level of camp that is laugh out loud awesome. It's a great serial, so if you get a chance to see it, it's public domain, so you can see it on YouTube. It's probably Republic's one of their best. Other than there's some unfortunate stereotyping that most people will just your eyes will glaze over and you'll just power through it. You'll just shake your head that these guys need to be more woke. And then you got to remember this is World War II. Well, it's World War II in Europe, but it's still the U.S. isn't in the war yet.
Okay, because
this was 40.
The 70s one is like with him riding a van, right?
In a Winnebago. Yeah. And his mentor's driving around in a Winnebago, and he talks to a painting of the seven gods, and then they kind of talk back. It's like a clutch cargo sort of thing.
Yeah, and like Solomon is not a god. He's just so it's kind of confusing their metaphors here.
And then they've got Greek and Roman because Mercury and Hercules are not.
Yeah.
Said it's classic cultural misappropriation.
Yeah, and it's always bad taste, bad form to mix gods together.
Yeah, whatever. I don't know. I say live dangerously.
They don't focus on that, but it's one of those things that they could have kind of talked about a little bit because poor Billy has no idea what the hell's going on.
Yeah, exactly. He probably hasn't even studied these characters in school yet.
So we go back to Billy, and he's now Shazam, and he goes back home, and he tries to talk to his brother, and his brother's freaking out, and
Yeah, just don't scream. And of course he screams. Oh, and let's not forget he's in his nice red snazzy outfit, and he has to get on the real subway.
yeah.
And everybody in Philly's like, "Hey, nice suit, asshole."
Oh, I do love the touch that they actually have the lightning bolt light up.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, I think I read or I saw a video where they talked about how difficult that was to actually do. Like they actually have it attached to batteries in the back, so that way it stays lit up for the different scenes.
And you'll also notice there's a constant tiger motif that kind of runs through the movie. I think this is a good time to point that out because you'll notice they're on the buttons of Shazam's cape. They're like tiger heads. At the carnival where Billy gets separated from his mother, she's trying to win him a stuffed tiger, and then later a tiger comes into play towards the end, another stuffed tiger. I think they're setting the ground for a future movie. The character Talking Tawny.
Who is a tiger?
Yeah, a tiger that talks, of course. But I don't know which came first, Tony that from Frosted Flakes or Tawny. I believe Tawny came first because I think he's in the mid 40s and Tony wasn't until the 50s.
So I actually do really like Shazam's outfit. I think it just looks great on screen. It's bright, it's beautiful, and the double cape is kind of weird. We never really seen anything like that before,
Yeah, it's a very unique cape. If you've noticed, a lot of people don't realize this, but Elvis Presley was very influenced by, because the Captain Marvel series was his favorite. Captain Marvel Jr. was his absolute favorite character. In fact, he modeled his hair on the McRae Boy illustrated version of Captain Marvel Jr. and his capes were his famous outfit. His capes were loosely based on Captain Marvel's look, and his logo, taking care of business. The Thunderbolt was based on Shazam's logo.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a big. Was a big Captain Marvel fan.
So I do like that in this movie that they have his cape centered. In many different versions of Captain Marvel / Shazam, his cape is askew to one shoulder, like it's on his left shoulder or his right shoulder, and I always thought it looked weird.
Yeah, and sometimes he has buttons that are almost as big as his head too. I always thought those kind of looked weird too.
So yeah, they start testing out and seeing what kind of abilities he has and what he could do, and he doesn't know if he could fly or what he can do or can't do, and they test out the abilities at a gas station or like a 7-Eleven kind of thing, and that scene is hilarious, absolutely hilarious.
Or we were talking about the robbery.
Yeah, so the robbers, he's like, oh, like you go over there and stop them, and like he at first, hides behind the thing because he doesn't remember that he's a superhero, so he doesn't try to save the day, and then it's like, no, let's go, and then it's like, okay, he goes over there, and like they try to.
The robbers shoot his suit, and so all of a sudden, they got all these bullets. Oh yeah, and I guess we should mention Billy stole Freddy's Superman bullet and dropped it down a drain. And I'm like going, some superhero, he didn't check his abilities to go look for it. I mean, if I was Freddy, I would have shamed Billy into going to find my bullet. But that's
Yeah.
me. So instead, Billy creates a whole bunch of bullets with the help of these robbers. So Freddy's got all the superhero smashed bullets he could ever want. And then Freddy goes, hey, the suit may be the one that's powered. Shoot him in the head so we can see if he's powered.
Yeah, and the whole theater was just cracking up laughing because I almost cried because I was like, oh yeah, obviously, but then you're gonna kill him, you idiot.
Well, Billy deserves it because he lost Freddy's bullet. I would think he'd be getting off rather easy if it was me. I mean,
And then they're like, oh, I didn't get the shot. He's taking video. I'm gonna post it later on YouTube. It's like, here, do it again. And then it's like, oh, it tickles. Okay, your bullet immunity. It's like, okay, cool. And then he throws him out of the window, and then he gets the beers, and they don't like beer because it tastes bad, which understandable. I don't like beer either.
that got a big laugh here because these kids, they were just so, we're gonna drink beer like adults, and they like, I just roared laughing with the audience full of people with beers in their hands.
So after that, the foster parents are trying to find Billy because he just kind of wandered off,
Yeah.
Well,
they're now legally responsible for him, so,
Yeah. And they try to sneak Shazam into the house, and it's so goofy, but I love it.
Yeah. And they're like, Billy, and it's like, oh yeah, and then oh yeah, another thing, and then they get him into a room and he says the wizard's name and puts a hole in the house. So I'm like going, it's winter, it's snowing, snow melts. So I mean, why isn't the house leaking with all these like lightning bolts coming through the roof and putting holes in the roof and stuff?
I was wondering about that too. I was like, okay, does it just go through the walls, or does it actually like destroy the ceilings and stuff? But it does destroy it,
Yeah. And one of his foster siblings sees this. This is Darla, probably one of the most precocious 9-year-olds. I think she's about 9, maybe she's 7. That you will ever meet. She's one of the highlights of the movie.
Yeah, she's really adorable. There's a whole cast here of foster kids. The parents are just like taking a whole group of foster kids, not just one or two.
Yeah, this is straight up like a TV show, The Fosters. I mean, you got these 2 former foster kids who are married, and now they want to give homes to other kids like they were given a chance. This is like I said, this is one of the greatest depictions I've seen of fostering ever. Does a lot to do away with decades of evil portrayals to the point where it's almost become it is a trope. Everything from the wicked step parent to Hansel and Gretel type of stuff.
And of course, nowadays it makes sense that it's quite a variety of children's races and ethnicities. It's not just all white kids.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think the original comics were just all white kids, but now they have different races, and it makes sense. I mean, foster kids are gonna
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Fawcett books were unfortunate. They did some of the stereotypes of the time. They kind of went into them, so it's nice seeing more inclusion definitely. They make great strides in this version of Captain Marvel Shazam of more inclusion.
So then they get to like a try to go back to school, and like, oh, you need come, because he's starting to have videos, taking videos of trying to train and see superpowers and what they could do, what he can't do. And now that they know how to control when he becomes Shazam, when he go back to being Billy, you know. And we have to give credit here to Shazam. Zachary Levi just nails it. He nails this part.
Yeah, I mean, this is the best part he's had since Chuck, and he hits a home run. Yeah, I think he's going to be known as Shazam until the day he dies. I
And
think this is going to be the part he's going to be remembered for.
yeah, it's one of those casting that it just so perfectly. I do not question that Billy is in Shazam's body. Like, I don't question that the mind is there. Now, we do have an interesting question here. Is Shazam a different consciousness, or is it just Billy in an adult version of his body, or does he get like a different version of his? Will Billy be a different adult when he grows up, or is he the same? Or is there like a Shazam cell where Shazam has his own brain and has his own memories, but is controlled by Billy? That's where it gets kind of weird, but they don't ever actually answer that question.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the source material always kind of back and forth on that. Is Billy a separate person than the captain, or or the captain an idealized version of Billy? Even Otto Binder, the guy who wrote most of the original Fawcett stories, I mean, he wrote like 900 out of the nearly 1,600 that were written, couldn't decide, and played it both ways, depending on the needs of the story.
So yeah, it's kind of like a Hulk thing. Is it, because Hulk and Dr. Bruce Banner are two very distinct characters, So Hulk, Dr. Banner becomes the Hulk, but he doesn't have full autonomy over the Hulk, So that's kind of I think the movie kind of makes it out that I don't know if it's the adult version of Billy or if it's just another character. I don't know if they've ever seen a comic where Billy does grow up and if he does, look different than Shazam.
Yeah, they every time they show Billy grown up, he looks like the captain. So, but the thing is, there's also versions that that he's definitely a different person. Probably because like Keith Giffen, when he wrote him in Justice League International, he wrote him as Bill is basically being Billy.
So we get all this montage of him using the powers and trying to figure out what he can and can't do, and posting the videos on YouTube, and
and
Freddy
doing performance to make money.
Yeah, which is a little bit tasteless, but I mean, he's still a kid,
Yeah, he's 14. He's trying to get money. I mean, he can't exactly go get a job most places because you have to be at least 16.
And
So
his
he
parents
is
have,
from scratch.
and his parents have no idea he's Shazam, or
Yeah, just Freddie and Darla so far.
and so we get to try to figure out everything that's happening, and then Doctor S gets back into here Savannah, and he sees Billy and fights him in a mall, and Billy doesn't know, or Shazam doesn't know how to fight him. Panics and goes back to being Billy and just runs away.
Yeah, because that's a natural reaction of a 14-year-old boy who hasn't figured out how to access the powers of Solomon.
If only.
Yeah.
If only that was one of his powers that he forgets he
Yeah.
has.
Yeah, wisdom.
Um, so yeah, somewhere down this line, Freddy wants Shazam to come because now Shazam has like a big following on YouTube and media presence, and he wants him to help out, Freddy at school, and he does, take care of the car for the kid, the bullies.
Yeah, destroys the bully's car that they use to try to run Freddy down with, which is a great gag.
And they get to, he's like, oh, I'll promise you to, he wants to, show off Shazam as his friend in school, but he doesn't want to do that, which is actually understandable,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it puts his identity at risk. He doesn't want the Savannah to find him or figure out who he is, so he doesn't want to even be the captain anymore, or Shazam, and he'll always be Captain Marvel to me.
Which actually leads to Dr. Savannah actually figuring out who the family is. Which actually, I do like that he figured it out. He made sense that he's like, oh, okay, that kid was there in the video feed. That kid, Freddy, oh. And he figured this out. And it's really smart, and it's good that he figured that out,
Mm-hmm.
Now, Dr. Savannah is essentially like Lex Luthor, right?
Oh, yeah. See, you'll notice that a lot of similarities between the Shazam characters and Superman characters. And a lot of that is because they shared the same basic writer, Otto Binder. Otto Binder didn't create Shazam, but he did create a lot of the characters. And Superman, he didn't create him, but he created a lot of the, like Otto Binder created Mary Marvel and Supergirl. And he based Lex Luthor's characterization on what he did for Dr. Sivana. Because before, Lex Luthor was a thug, but under Otto Binder's writing, he became a mad scientist.
Yeah, that's a very important thing to mention, because the original Lex Luthor was a mad scientist. And, now, more modern versions, he's basically a, capitalist pig that hates Superman because he wants to be the perfect man, or originally he was a mad scientist that would make inventions and make potions.
Oh, and even before then he was just a thug, a kind of a criminal in a purple prison outfit, ha 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 ha. Otto Binders, who really fleshed out Lex, pumped up the scientist angle. And then it was John Byrne who kind of made him the kind of the almost Trump-like figure.
Yeah, I'm the perfect man, and I'm the Superman. I hate Superman because I'm better than him. I was supposed to be the man of tomorrow, and this alien is taking away my thing. And everyone should know and love Lex. So anyway, Dr. Savannah here is okay as a villain. I think you get some basics of him, but I really feel like they could do a lot better, to expand his character.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the most richly defined villains in comics. And they used, are they saving it for sequels or what? I mean, in the comics, he has one of the best families. I mean, his 4 kids, are just so deliciously varying levels of evil, and a couple of them switch back and forth. He's got because just the Golden Age comics of Captain Marvel and his family fighting Sivana and his family. I mean, it was comic book gold. Some of it was humorous too, but I mean, he's one of the richest villains in comics. I mean, he was the original mad scientist. I mean, that's where all the tropes come from on mad scientist is from him, pretty much. And of course, he's inspired by Otto Binder said he kind of loosely he was inspired by Dr. Frankenstein.
So, Dr. Savannah wants to get the staff, and he wants Billy to give him his powers, and he uses the demons to help gain, to get revenge on his father in a boardroom scene that.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that one kind of shook me. I was like, whoa, they're going a little darker than I thought in here, you know?
Yeah, this scene is hard PG-13. There's a head-biting scene that puts the attempts of doing that kind of stuff in Venom to shame. I mean, it actually made me jump back in my seat. I was like, whoa, that was more effective than any jump scare. Yeah, David F. Sandberg really pulls out the horror elements in this scene.
Yeah, he wrecks that place, and all the demons go after all the board members, which, I guess they're evil too. I don't know.
Savannah throws out his own brother, throws him out a window.
And, the one thing I have about the demons is that I feel like they're very kind of vaguely like a shadowy, blackish color palette, where I feel like they could have been more distinctive in how they appeared. And like they all kind of just look the same-ish. And,
Okay.
if they would have been different colors or different kinds of, it would have been a little bit better.
That didn't bother me a whole lot, other than the movie being so visually dark, made them hard to see. But I did, in concept, they were a nice contrast from how bright and colorful Shazam is. So there was a nice contrast there, but it didn't work so much because the cinematography was so dark.
Yeah.
Which made demons hard to see.
Yeah, so it could have been a little bit more defined there, but we get to the point where Dr. Savannah does take gets to the house, and the poor foster parents are still trying to find Billy, still trying to find Freddie, and then their kids get taken by Dr. Savannah and say, "Give me your powers," and then they have a big fight, which is like the third act is kind of a weird thing.
But this is the third act in this is better than most third acts in comic book movies.
Because like they escape into the Rock of Eternity, and like they try to explore that, which is actually interesting. I want to explore that more. I think that's definitely something.
Yeah, you see all these doors. They kind of remind me of the doors in Monsters, Inc.
Yeah.
And one of the doors they open up is you see these alligators playing cards, which is a callback to some famous Captain Marvel villains from the Golden Age. These crocodiles. One was named Sobek, another one was Herkimer, and there's a bunch of others. So I would say that's in I believe in Jeff Johns' run, they're part of a land of talking animals. So hopefully that's where we'll see talking Tawny the talking tiger. Yay! He's like one of my favorite characters in the book.
Now, the crocodiles are not just crocodiles; they're personification crocodiles, so they kind of behave like crocodile people,
Yeah, they stand up on their hind legs and.
But yeah, that was a really fun scene. I wanted to see more of what was behind door number 3 or door number 7 or door number 27. I would have loved that if one of the doors would have opened up to like Harry Potter or, other Warner Brothers things like CW TV show or something.
Yeah, exactly. Or we would find the Justice League sitting around doing something.
Yeah, I mean that would have been fun. I think one of the doors open up and you see like CW Flash team talking to one another and they're like, "What the hell is that?" And you close the door,
Yeah. Mhm.
you know, because they
And
could
I
just
go,
be other universes, and that makes total sense.
Freddy would go, "Why does he have a cooler lightning bolt than you?"
One of the doors could lead into the universe that actually has the Gambit movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Boom!
Ooh, we can see this.
Burn! uh,
Or a movie where Dark Phoenix is actually good.
burn! Okay, anyway, so they eventually get out because apparently Shazam can Shazam back to his universe whenever he wants, which was not explained at all. I was like, what the hell is that?
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand how he got back to the universe?
No.
He gets back to the strip club he tried to go to first, which is
Yeah.
hilarious.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And they were smart with this. We never see the inside of the strip club.
And like, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? It's like, I don't know. And again, Dr. Savannah gets them to the actual like amusement park or like a carnival, and it's like keeps trying to drown Billy, and it doesn't try to kill him because he knows he can't kill him because he'll lose the power, because he turns back to Billy. And there was a funny scene where like all the kids are like, we have to help him, if they split up we could figure out how to solve the problem, and like they get split up, and then immediately afterwards each demon gets each one of them.
Yeah.
And he's like, the only way you could win this is if you give me your powers. And then cleverly, I actually did not see this coming.
The powers of Solomon finally kick in.
Billy decides he could, he remembers that he could share the power with the staff and trick Savannah, and the kids all get the staff, and then there's like, oh, say my name, and they all say Billy.
Billy. Yeah, they all grab his staff and scream Billy.
Again, another hilarious scene, and then they're like, no, the other power.
The other name, and then they say it, and then we have probably Jeff Johns' best addition to the whole Captain Marvel universe, which was originally introduced in Flashpoint. We get the Shazam family, affectionately called Shazamly.
And all of the brothers and sisters are now Shazam powered equally.
But each one, and what's funny about it is, they figure out how to use their powers a lot faster than Billy did.
Yeah, and they all look great. I love all the suits here. I think they're all.
Yeah, they didn't explain it really well, but you could tell. But like Darla, she can run fast. She has more super speed than Billy. Pedro probably has more strength. Each one of them, they have the same powers, but each one of them has one power that's better than the others.
And I did not think they were going to introduce the Shazam family in this, because I thought they would wait until the sequel or something, but it's a convenient way to make it work.
It saves the third act. It keeps the third act from, because I mean, yeah, as awesome as the movie Wonder Woman is, you have to admit it falls apart in the third act.
Yeah, I kind of forgot what the third act was. It's Wonder Woman. Oh, I guess she fights
Ares.
Yeah.
This is a spoiler cast, so get over it. We're gonna spoil more than just the movie that we want. We're gonna spoil everything.
Dumbledore dies.
The kid was dead all the time in The Sixth Sense. The doctor was dead all the time in The Sixth Sense. I mean,
yeah, that makes it even weirder.
yeah, Kevin Spacey was Kaiser Sose in Unusual Suspects.
Anyway,
And
so
just don't let your kids watch that.
they break the staff, and that way Dr. Savannah can't use it. Which my wife and I were like, "No, you don't break that. That's useful. You can use it on something else. You don't know what powers else it could do. You just ruined it."
I know. Hey, one of them does. The Wisdom of Solomon isn't really functioning very well. His gaming stats for that power are probably at a 1 or a 2.
So yeah, they kind of save the. They have a scene where they kind of save the amusement park from being destroyed by all the demons, and Shazam, original Shazam, which now it's getting confusing because there's 6 of them now, I think, right?
Yeah, well, I would refer to them by their first names now. Billy, Pedro, Eugene, Darla, Mary. Might make it simpler.
Yeah, because they can't really do the color because some of the colors work too, or the same-ish.
Yeah, and Darla is the adult actress playing Darla transformed nails it. My favorite bit is when she saves Santa.
So yeah, we'll get to that in a second. So yeah, you go back to the tiger reference you said, where you see a little kid scared with her dad, and then Shazam, original Shazam says, "Oh, here, get this tiger," and it flashes back to the mom.
So he steals the tiger and hands it to her.
Yeah. Oh, we kind of forgot about the whole mom subplot here. Let's go over that real quick. So we get a flashback to when the mom leaves, or I guess Freddy leaves the mom. They're at a carnival, and mom's trying to win him a prize, and he drops a marble, I think, or a compass.
Mm-hmm.
And he tries to find it, and then so he gets lost in the shuffle of people, and he can't find his mom. And at this age, I don't know how old he is, but I think it was like 5 or 6 or something.
Look younger than that, probably like 3 or 4.
Yeah, and we never get. We're like, okay, what's going on? And eventually, we do get here where they go back, where one of his what is it? Which one of the kids finds it for him?
Eugene. Yeah, Eugene. He's the smart one.
So he finds out where the mom lives, and Billy goes over there, and the mom is surprised to see Billy, recognizes him, but is not loving or caring, and she is like, "Well, I remember that. And I saw the police officer, and it gave me a break. I was only 16 at the time, or 15, 17 or something. And I didn't know how to be a mom. And I thought it would be easier just to let things go," which is just a huge shock. I didn't see that coming at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that really busts up the trope that, that a mother loves her kids unconditional, blah, 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 which anybody who's listened to one true crime podcast knows is total bunk.
Yeah, I mean, so hopefully you get 2 parents, hopefully. But, sometimes you have only one, and sometimes it might be, same
and then you can tell that her life isn't so good because there's an abusive man yelling at her, like, "What are you doing? Get back in here." Yeah, that part was played by the director, David F. Sandberg. He played the abusive jerk behind the door, yelling at Billy's mom.
And like Billy mom said that their dad left, and like he was interested in being dad, and she didn't know what to do, but knew that the cops had him, so he'll be okay.
Yeah, dad. Yeah, remember this? She said, "Dad." Remember, Dad was in jail.
Yeah. So, she was just like, it's a convenient way of just letting go, and the cops have him. It's not just a wandering whatever. She did try to get back to him, but once she saw the cops had him, he let it go. Which, again, you kind of say, okay, cops, you need to find out who this mom is and arrest her.
Yeah, they didn't do a very good job.
So, anyway, yeah, and mom doesn't want anything to do with Billy. And that's damn hard to see on screen. And Billy and Ashton Angel nails that scene, I feel like it breaks your heart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, he finds her and it's like no happy ending, I mean, and we also don't know what else is going on in her life. For all we know, behind that door, she's got a bunch of other kids.
Yeah, she's not interested.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we don't know. And at that point, we don't really care because we're invested in Billy and his journey, and he's just gotten basically kicked in the dick about as hard as you can get.
Yeah, and I was kind of expecting him to have a Will Smith moment. I don't know if you remember this in Fresh Prince when Fresh Prince's dad comes back and then promises him and then eventually has to leave him again. And then like Will Smith has this awesome speech. You remember that or no?
A little bit, not as detailed as you do.
But yeah, that Will Smith scene in Fresh Prince was outstanding, and like he's like screaming at him, "I don't need you. I know. I was fine without you." And like you see the dad, what's the dad? Phil come in and give Will a hug, and that's how the scene ends. And it's just like Will Smith's gonna be a great actor, and he hit that out of the park. And I was thinking that was gonna happen here. But Billy doesn't do it. He just sucks it up and like, okay, the family I'm with is the family I have. And the family, Freddie is my brother. I like him. The parents I have are pretty good. And that's part of the reason he goes back and he tries to help them. And,
And he's going to embrace Darla and kind of make up for saying, I'm not your real brother, and breaking her heart earlier in the movie.
So, yeah, all the brothers and sisters, they have personality. They're all likable. They get very, very little screen time, but I do like them. I do think they're good,
Yeah, and they also did away with, for decades, Mary and Billy were twins. They completely did away with that in this, just like Jeff Johns did in the source material. They made Mary Bromfield her own character, her own person. She's not an extension of Billy at all. She's her own character who's about ready to leave the nest and go to college.
And so we do get the very end where Billy figures out how to get the demon of envy out of Dr. Savannah and is able to defeat it and defeat the rest of the demons. And get them back into the cave, into their shell, which is a little bit rushed, but it's fine.
Mm-mm. Yeah, that's why this movie got an 8 from me instead of a 10. This little details. Yeah, this was nitpicks that for me took off the score. It wasn't like some big thing that was dumb or anything. It was just little things.
So yeah, you get back to the family, and they're getting ready to go back to eat dinner with the parents. The parents are happy, everyone's there, and like they have a scene where like they're all putting their hands in together, and that Billy finally accepts that he's part of this family, and like you can see the parents almost about to cry, and I was almost about to cry too because they're just so sweet,
Yeah, and I was nervous Darla, don't say Shazam right now. Because with all the superpowers they have, they can quickly fix the holes they create with lightning. So I guess it won't be too bad if they say it in the house.
So yeah, I was wondering, it's like, are they gonna tell their parents that?
Yeah. Oh, by the way, we have superpowers.
I was like, what happened? What the hell? Yeah, that's Billy, by the way. And then he gave us his powers, and we broke the staff, and we have this lair. Nope.
Yeah. Let's keep this from the parents for now.
So that's how the movie ends, on a really sweet, tender note. And you have like this really. Oh no! It doesn't end that way. Then you have like a scene back in the.
Yeah, now we come to the first. We come to what they call a mid-credit scene, even though it's at the end of the movie,
where you get where you get Freddy back at school, and like he's like, "Oh, Shazam's gonna be here," or the hero, which they never name him on. They never give him a name for like the media or whatever. And he's there, and they're like, "Oh, I brought someone," and then you see Superman.
Oh, he forgot he did have. They were trying to come up with names for him, like Captain Sparklefingers and Thundercrack, which is a reference to an infamous, awesome porno from the 60s.
I was hoping that they would mention Captain Marvel and just has a wink and a nod to the fans and like said, "Nah, we don't want that." That's
they're not going to because of the. I think they're trying to play nice with Marvel about it.
Yeah, I think it would have been fun though if they would have just winked and nod at the camera, and they're like, "Nah, we don't."
I would have loved an end scene where they're like looking at a Captain Marvel poster and said, "Dude, you should use that as your name." And then Billy would go, "But that's a girl's name." And Freddy would go, "It doesn't have to be." That would have been awesome.
Yeah, that would have been a fun nod to it too. Or, yeah. So we get Superman, but we don't get to see his face or his head. But it's the same Henry Cavill suit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he shows up for lunch along with Shazam. So Freddy's doubly cool now amongst his peers.
So I have a joke about that. The reason why we don't see Superman's face is because we didn't see it in IMAX.
Yeah.
In the IMAX screen, they have the full picture. They have 20% and more on the top and the bottom. And you don't get to see that if you watch it in normal, like we did. But if you watch it in IMAX, you get to see it, which is not true. I'm just joking.
Yeah. It's like when the Wizard talked about his other champion, Black Adam. It wasn't The Rock. Yeah, I think Dwayne Johnson should have taken this part. Should have did this movie.
Yeah, I'm fine with Dr. Savannah here. But
Mark Long sells it. Yeah, because this is so close to the original source material. It's kind of like I was worried that it was going to be like Watchmen, but it wasn't. It knew where to pivot and change things, and instead of just showing cut scenes from the source material, actually have a coherent story. And Mark Strong really sold the Doctor, and really sold that he would have the 7 deadly sins would give him these powers.
Yeah, and I think it's fine because you do get the same thing that you always get, where the villain has the same powers as the hero, and this way it changes that up, and then you could have that for a sequel down the line or something, and really get apparently there's still going to be a Black Adam movie. Who knows when that's going to happen? But they're going to make Black Adam into like an anti-hero, right?
Yeah, well, Black Adam is another Otto Binder creation, but he only appeared once in the Golden Age. He didn't appear in the DC comics until DC completely bought the rights to Fawcett's assets. And then they basically gave him a Submariner personality transplant. Because basically he's DC's Namor.
So, the real reason why we don't get Henry Cavill is because of they did say that they did. I remember seeing interviews where they did want to have him in there. That was the plan. But since they shot it in an actual school, they can only shoot it at certain times, so they couldn't actually get him to come in, which is disappointing. I was hoping there would be a cameo of maybe Superman helping train him.
Yeah, and The Rock should have cameoed too. If he wasn't going to be the main villain from the source material, wasn't going to be Black Adam, who originally was the villain in this story.
The way they cut it, it was fine though. It bothered me too much that it's just a little bit annoying, but it's more just like a cute nod that you don't need to see his face. It's Superman.
Oh, it's like all those old movies where the character would meet the president of the United States and you wouldn't see his face.
Yeah, so they don't want to draw someone that looks like someone, or they have generic president named President Smith.
Yeah.
So it does kind of confirm though that we're not probably going to see another Henry Cavill movie Superman, which is sad. I do like him, and I think he was never given a good shot. He was just given very little in his movies.
Yeah. Him and Ben Affleck both really got the short shrift in the DCEU. But I'm gonna enjoy him in The Witcher. So there's that.
So we get like a fun little credits where like drawings of Shazam doing different adventures or something happen, and that was really fun.
All to the beat of the Ramones. They did the Ramones song written by Tom Waits. I Don't Want to Grow Up. Great vibe. Great. I mean, the cartoon sequence really reminded me a lot of Spider-Man. Homecoming, because the Ramones.
Yeah,
so I was pleasantly surprised to hear a Ramones song in a Shazam movie.
We get the mid-credit scene
with the Doctor in his jail cell, and he's trying to come up with. I'm guessing the kids changed the combination to how to get into the Rock of Eternity. See, Powers of Solomon kicked in hard with at least one of them. So he's trying to come up, because it looked like he was trying to come up with different combinations to try to get back in. And then he hears a voice talk to him. And this voice turns out to be Mr. Mind. So I'm excited. I'm hoping this sets up Monster Society of Evil, which was the debut of Mr. Mind.
Yeah, Mr. Mind being the small little caterpillar that has like this electronics near him to help him amplify his voice. And he says, "Oh, you think that's the only way to get magic." And, which is a good little kind of hook to get, And then we get to the credits, and then we get to the post-credit scene, which I thought was really annoying, because I saw.
Yeah, it's a throwaway gag from when they were testing superpowers, and it's trying to see if he can talk to fish like Aquaman, and it's basically makes the point that Aquaman is cool. I'm like, duh, the world knows that because because the Aquaman movies made over $1 billion. So all those jokes about Aquaman talking to fish and shaking his butt to dance music are obsolete now.
So yeah, this scene, I think I remember seeing it in like a trailer or a TV spot. So it's kind of disappointing to be the post-credit scene.
Yeah, they should have swapped the Savannah in jail with this scene. Because I mean, I understand why they took it out of the main movie because it wasn't necessary, and the movie was already over 2 hours long. But put it at the very end. It was kind of like the end stinger on Ant-Man and the Wasp with the ant and the drums.
Yeah.
I mean, they ads. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean that scene could have been perfectly fine in the movie. You don't need to cut that out at all, you know.
But I mean, I understand why they did. But if you're gonna put it in the end stinger, don't put it in the ads.
So, anyway, I was kind of hoping that post-credit scene was going to have, a Black Adam and actually have show off Dwayne Johnson in the suit and, say, "Oh, a hero, the champion is another champion is around or something." And, kind of see him get out of wherever he's in, because I think it's kind of weird. Like the comic said that the Black Adam is like trapped in another dimension or trapped in deep space or something, or I don't know where he is.
Yeah, well, the original comic, when he gets his powers and uses them for bad, the wizard sends him far, far away, and it takes him tens of thousands of years to fly back.
So, that would have been, I think that would have been much better to have that as a post-credit scene and have, Dwayne Johnson in the Black Adam costume to finally confirm that rumor that's been around forever.
Mm-hmm. And not that this movie's going to go the way of a Gambit.
Or Flash.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if just in case you did not listen to the spoiler-free version, Jake, what do you give the score?
8 out of 10.
All right, and I'm going a little bit higher, give it a 9.
Mm-hmm. And good 3D, worth it for 3D fanatics. But if you're not a big fanatic on 3D, a 2D screening of this will be just fine. The 3D doesn't add that much to the experience.
Is there any spoilery scenes that the 3D you remember was worth it for, or no?
The car crash with the family, it's very worth it. And then the boardroom, the 3D in that is really nice.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess that's basically it for Shazam.
Oh, and and if your curiosity is piqued by Shazam and you want more, check YouTube and other social media sites and download sites because the Republic serial, The Adventures of Captain Marvel, is public domain and it is available because Shazam was the very first comic book superhero to end up on the big screen back in 1941. And a lot of his comic book adventures published in Fawcett Comics are also public domain. So comicbookplus.com, you can download and read online many public domain issues of Captain Marvel, aka Shazam's adventures.
And we'll have a link to that in the little info box or whatever that you could get this podcast or wherever you're listening. We'll have a link to that. So, yeah. Okay. Well, hopefully, the movie is going to make enough money to make a sequel. There's a lot of good press around it. A lot of good reviews. Like right now, I think it's really high up there with reviews. I don't know the percentage right now, top of my head. I think it's like 95% or something.
Yeah, it's in the 90s. Yeah, it's got really good Rotten Tomatoes review, and it had a really strong opening. So, I mean, there's probably going to be a sequel sooner than later.
So right now, it looks like the opening weekend is going to be about 53 million, which you haven't gotten the final numbers yet, but expectations were lower, so it's better than expectations. And Shazam has a 91% Rotten Tomato meter audience score of 90%. Everyone that's seen it loves it, so I think there's going to be fantastic word of mouth. I think there'll be multiple watchings. People want to see it again because they laughed so hard. They want to see the jokes again, which I kind of want to do that.
And there's also a lot of details, a lot of little Easter eggs. Yeah, there's a lot going on in this movie. It's well worth repeat viewing.
Oh, one question regarding the 3D. Toward the end of the movie, there's a scene where they actually grab Shazam's cape, which is kind of funny. Like mention it in Incredibles. No capes, they could grab him. Where like Shazam is like flying outward. Was he like flying outward and popping out of 3D there, or not really?
Not really. They
Aw.
really made the boat on things. I don't know if it was the way it was filmed or the way my theater where I saw it projected it. Because it had all the telltale signs of looking like they turned the bulb down.
Yeah, whenever I watched it, it was darkly lit too.
Told me it was everybody else I talked to seen it. They said it looked murky, it looked dark.
So yeah, I'm thinking that they just shot the scenes in darker.
Kind of give it more of a Ghostbusters look.
Well,
Back
just
in the 80s version.
I don't know. The darker scenes might just be because they didn't want to pay a super amount of money. It's easier to render in darker scenes than it is into brighter scenes.
Yeah, CGI and stuff. You don't have to have as much detail.
So it's a cheap way of having special effects. If it's darker and people can't see it, then it doesn't get people don't question the CG as much, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So before we go, we've been talking a long time. There's 2 Captain Marvel movies out. We both seen them. We both liked them. Obviously this is Shazam and this is DC, and we saw Captain Marvel with
Brie Larson.
Marvel. Which Captain Marvel movie do you like more?
I like this one more.
Me too.
And I'm the first to admit, I'm also colored by my fandom for the Fawcett version of this character.
And Captain Marvel, by the way, has a 78% in Rotten Tomatoes versus a 91% for Shazam. And let's see who makes more money. It's not being a Marvel fanboy or a DC fanboy or fangirl or not being that. It's not being sexist. I just like this movie more.
Yeah, and the 3 fans that actually like the MF Enterprise version of Captain Marvel better than these 2. Google that, kids. You'll get a big laugh. MF Enterprises Captain Marvel.
And it's kind of funny because I feel like Shazam is more suitable for Marvel, Studios movie than Captain Marvel. Well, Captain Marvel was more DC-like because it was more brooding, more darker, serious beginning,
Yeah, well, basically, I've always said about Marvel movies, they were smart. They kind of adopted the 60s, kind of almost the Otto Binder feel of for their movies. The humor and DC should go back and adapt, because this really had the whimsy, really captured the whole feel of Otto Binder's work on Captain Marvel with Shazam.
Like, I feel like this Shazam movie could fit in like the Christopher Reeve Superman universe,
Yep, exactly.
Like, it doesn't really fit the Snyderverse, at all.
Not at all. Yeah, this is the first DCEU movie that Snyder had no input into whatsoever.
And like, I think he had some input in Aquaman, but I don't know if it was that much, you know. But yeah, this feels like Aquaman still feels like it would fit into that universe, you know, because he was in that universe, you know, which the DCEU is basically trash. Not really trash because it just the continuity is broken. I have no idea where Shazam takes place in the timeline of the movies.
Yeah, well, now it looks like we have a Justice League that's Aquaman, Wonder Woman, led by Wonder Woman, and has Shazam in it.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of DC references here, so he definitely knows about Batman and Superman. You know,
Yeah, they exist in this world. I mean, they are in the same world. I mean, they're because I mean, Superman shows up. Well, his suit does anyway. Hey, for all we know, it's one of the kids said Shazam and put on a Halloween costume.
maybe. But
That would have been hilarious if it was Pedro or something.
you know, we do the faces the kids have seeing Superman are just kind of awesome. You know, oh, you know. So I guess this takes place after Aquaman. I guess. Aquaman obviously takes place after Justice League, but they just it's one line that if you'd missed it, you would have totally not cared nattered, you know.
Yeah.
So this feels like what DC should be doing, you know.
Mm. Uh-huh. Yeah, this is definitely right track for them.
It has heart, it has some serious things in there, but it's really funny and just a whole lot of entertainment value for your buck.
Yeah, and some nice chills too. And this is right up the alley of you know, tween kids. I mean, older kids aren't going to think this is a baby movie for little kids.
Yeah, it does have that good kind of thing where, you know, if you do have, you know, a 12-year-old or 11-year-old, they'll enjoy this a lot. You know, I imagine kids enjoying this a lot too. It's not, you know, it doesn't baby it too much. It doesn't have it too whitewashed. It's wholesome, but it's still fun, you know.
And there are some intense scenes though for your kids, and you know your kids, so under 10, if they don't like spooky stuff at all, maybe wait until uh rent this when they're older.
All right. Any last words? Anything else?
I think we just about covered it all, and then some.
And then some. Even talked about Captain Marvel versus this. You know, it's not about being sexist. You know, I do like Brie Larson as Captain Marvel. You know, it's not a terrible movie. I think it's a really, really good movie, but I
Yeah,
like this
it's
more.
good. I mean, I gave it a 7 out of 10.
So yeah, it's just one of those things where it's fine. You know, you don't have to hate one and be for one. You don't have to be either or. You could enjoy both.
Yeah, I mean, I'm as ever much a Johnny DC as I am a Marvel zombie. I enjoy them both.
Good movies and good content. It doesn't matter where it comes from. You know.
Yeah, don't go through life with one hand tied behind your back. Enjoy it all.
I can, yeah.
Yeah,
You don't
there's good
have.
stuff in everywhere. Let's hope some of the other comic book companies come to the big screen. I mean, there's some great Valiant stuff. I mean, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have too much hopes for Hellboy, but I do want it to succeed. I do want it to be good. I don't. You don't have to be this.
Hmm.
What's the term called? Where like it's either me or you kind of mentality.
Yeah, bunker mentality, us against them, and you don't have. There are no sides in this. This
Yeah.
isn't like heroes versus villains. We're all heroes. There's no villains.
You know, yeah, you can enjoy DC movies and you can enjoy Marvel movies and you can enjoy whatever. Enjoy the content. You don't have to be, oh, I'm DC only. Oh, I'm only, oh, come on. Come on.
Yeah,
grow up.
You don't show love for something by hating something else. That's not cool.
Yeah. I could like Star Trek and Star Wars,
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
All right.
We need to learn to coexist.
All right. I think we're done preaching here.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, before this podcast ends, I want to give a thank you to my patrons. Right now, we have one patron, which is David from Spain, and I want to thank you for your financial support.
All right, so that's going to be it for this podcast.
We now have a Patreon, and the link is in the description. Thanks for watching.
And we are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. They don't put it everywhere. Just look for us, 3D or 2D. And of course, review us on iTunes. And if you want to write us a letter, our email address is email3dortwo d@gmail.com. So that's going to be it. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.